Hey guys, how's it going? Ghostly Rich here today, and today we're going to be installing the Teraflex rear spare tire carrier. As you can see, this is the part number if you're looking for it. This is for people that don't want to do the whole big nub slash swing out arm. They just want to keep their stock, but as we know, with a 35-inch tire like that, you're going to need to make sure that it's reinforced at some point. So that's what this kit does. I've seen a lot of good reviews on it, so today we're going to install it. First off, let's unbolt this. As you can see, you've got your screws right here. 13 fits just right. So get your 13 on there and just quickly plow with these bolts. Once you get to this point where it's off of the back tailgate, now you're just going to flip it to the back and just take off your torque screws right here. So you'll see two right here and then two up here. You remove those so that way we can take out the brake light. The connector, which is right here, it's just a ducktail. You squeeze it down, it'll pull right out. Once you do that, just unhook it from this hook, just put it off to the side. And now, if we want to, we could even take off some of these hinges. You just literally squeeze the sides, and of course now that one's going to be fun, but yeah, you just squeeze the sides, it just comes right off like that. And now we got these ones, and these ones just unclip like so, just like that. There we go. Just literally work it out. Perfect. Grab, pull, drop that. You'll see that in your new kit, you got a plug. Just sink and seat that new plug inside the hole. Next thing to do is take off the 4 bolts that are holding the door on. So remove them, and then we'll move this over a little bit so that way, or you could close the door like I've done if you'd like, and then just take off all the bolts of the hinges because we have to get that all out of the way. Once you've removed them like so, oh look at that, they don't paint behind there. Yeah, I know. So you flip them open like so, take a T50, and now you're going to remove these. There's 1 bolt on the other side, so remove all 3 of those bolts. From this point I would give the area a little bit of a wipe down so that way you don't have any surface dirt there, and it's nice, and you don't have to go to town on it. It's up to you, but I just make sure that I cleaned it up a bit so that way when I bolt this thing, it's not going to crush any like big hunks of dirt into the paint. So at this point, what you're going to want to do is take your original bolts, kind of organize them a bit, keep your T50s and your 13 mils separate from each other. The next thing to do is to bring up the carrier. We're going to line up these bolts, and then from there we're going to line up the rest, and it's just basically hold it up here, screw in, and just get everything kind of lined up. When you are doing this, make sure you have some sort of thread locking compound, whether it's blue or red Loctite. That way we can Loctite these bolts in so you don't have to worry about them becoming loose. So just thread lock your bolts if you want while they're down, and then you can lightly screw them in as you go. So for the first step, I did the bolts in here first. After I did the 2 in there, I lined these ones up, and again, I didn't do those up tight. I just put them in so they're nice and loose. Line these ones up. After I lined them up, I did these ones in a little bit tighter, did the same here, a little bit tighter, and a little bit tighter. And then now, we're just gonna line these up, and look at that, it already lines right up where we want it to. You're gonna loosely thread those in. Then you're gonna notice these bolts don't line up. So what you're gonna do is pop open your door, grab the handle, lift the door. As you lift the door, you might notice that it's still not 100% lined up. Wiggle the door until it's over and lines up with all 4 holes. What you can do is you can put in, just loosely thread the thread in this one and that one, just so it's where it should be, and then you can tighten these up so they won't move around. So just put in this hole and this hole. Actually, you could loosely thread in all 4 of these, and then we're going to tighten those ones to torque. So for these bolts, you can either use your factory ones like I did, or you can, of course, use the ones that are down there. I'll leave that up to you. It is completely your option. calls for 19 foot-pounds of torque. That is almost nothing. You'll see what I mean if you put it on your torque wrench. It will click before you can even breathe. So that's what they call for. So go as close as you can to that. If you're wondering what that is, if you don't have a torque wrench, that's like one hand maximum and no he-manning. If you he-man, that's way past torque. 19 is not a lot at all. If you're not bolting the jack and stuff on, you just take these little spacers. You're just gonna put these, or little grommets. These are thread savers. I do recommend putting them in. If you're sticking with your stock tire mount, then this is where you would put your stock tire mount on. You're gonna notice you have some rubber gaskets that are gonna go in, like so. So what you're gonna do is lightly put this up over here, use your factory bolts and just tie it in using those gaskets in between the mount and the spacer, or the mount and this. So just put it. You'll also notice that it's got a tiny little bit of an offset. See that? So you don't have to worry about using a spacer or anything to space it out from the body. So just literally just put the factory screws back in with the gasket between that and here. So when you put the gasket behind, you just put the gasket, put the screw in lightly, put the gasket, put the screw in lightly. Don't forget your Loctite on the threads. So after you, when you're threading those in nicely, just do that. And then again, just do that with all of them. Just don't cinch any of them down until you have all the gaskets in, and then just torque them to 15 to 19 once again. If you look for the bolts with the little splines on them, look like that. Just lightly put them into the holes. I'm going to try at the maximum. And what we're going to lightly do is tie them in on our spare tire, measure, and make sure it's going to clear our bumper. You can either just automatically go to the highest setting, or you could go down to, or you could try the middle. A lot of people just go right to the highest setting and say, you know what? Sweet, that's it. So we're gonna just lightly put it on there. After we lightly put it on there, so just tie in the two top supplied acorn nuts like so, just like that. And then if we turn this a little bit, just so I can get some light on this, you're gonna notice that the fin is right here on the bottom. So you're gonna measure from the fin to the floor, so that way we can see how far this tire is gonna drop, and then we're gonna check that measurement against the placement over there. So mine is 10 inches. So technically I could actually lower it so it would sit in here a little bit better, but I might leave mine up a little higher just so I have a little bit more clearance. Again, this is up to you. It all depends on personal preference. Once you've test fitted it, you've lifted it up, you've looked at it, like, okay, that's where I want it. That's like the equal distance, be all the way around, whichever way you'd like to look at it. What you'll do is you'll put them in the back end. You'll take one of these mounts right here and you can just tighten them up. And when you tighten them up, they'll press in, which is what you're looking for. You just want it to press in. And again, you can always take care of that later, but that's all I did now, so I don't have to get back behind here afterwards. So all I did is I tightened it up, and so it's pressed in, and then that way it's not going to come loose on you. After you do that, you've lifted it up, and this is a heavy tire, as I'm sure you all know. Once you get it on here and you slide it in, what you want to do is you want to mark with a piece of tape or a pen where it stopped. And the reason why is if we come over here, my tape is all the way on the bottom. But yeah, what I did is I reached through one of the circles like that. Bam. I reached through one of the circles and I put the piece of tape on there so I know exactly when I take this off where to line it up, because we're gonna have to put a bolt through here, lock it in, so when you put your spare tire on, it's gonna be bolted up nice and tight. So from here, what you're going to do, the bolt is going to get a washer like so. Then you're gonna put this one through the back end, and then it's going to get a washer and a nut. Then on the one in the front, it's going to go bolt, washer, spacer, spacer, washer, bolt. So that way this plate is in between the two spacers. So I ended up double checking my measurements by taking the tape measure, measuring from the back of my rim to here, and then making sure that this bump stop can still be used. I don't have the other, and if you take a look, when you compress this bump stop, it should be pretty close to this, so that way it's still going to be good for both of these. So now that I've got this all tightened up, now for these bolts, these are 55 foot-pounds for both of these. So once you've got this all dialed in for yourself, so once you measure it, make sure you take your line and you go and push this in about 1/8 more. So if it was right here, you'd sink it back in another 1/8. So that way this will sit nice and tight when we're done. Now that we've got this the way it is, I'm going to take my tire, put it up here. Obviously can't do that with the camera in my hand. Once you get this on and you start tightening these up, put these on, snug them up, and then after that, 65 foot-pounds for each of these. Once it's on, it's time to assemble our rear brake light assembly. If you have a pair of plastic snips, you're just going to cut this right along, right where it conjoins to the light. So like right here, all the way through, and then right along here. I'll show you how mine looks when I'm done, but I'm literally just going to take some plastic cutters and do exactly that. That's it done. I mean, only the bottom looks kind of sketch. Looks fine that way. And like that. All I did is I went with that pair of side cutters like so, and I cut along the edge, and then I cut to here, then I cut down, and then I just kind of like bent it back and forth. Next, use 2 of the existing screws that we took out of the old reverse brake light, and what we're going to do is put them in here so that way it ties our bracket on. Next, you're going to have these 2 little bolts. You'll see that there is a spring washer. You're just going to keep them like this. I wouldn't suggest Loctiting these ones because you're going to have to take them off if you ever want to take your spare on. It's up to you. That's what the spring washers are for. They should hold it just fine. So from this point, just bring your 3rd brake light wire around through your rim and plug it in, then tie these 2 bolts on. So all I did is I fished this wire up and through here, so that way it's all the way around and holds it right there. Other than that, I think that's it. My rating on the install is it's a 2 out of 5. It's not hard to do this at all, and it's definitely worth it when you have bigger tires. I like the fact that this is they relocate the brake light. I like it in here. It's cool. It's not sitting way the heck up here anymore. Oh yeah, that tailgate doesn't move anywhere. Yep. So I'll have to see how this does on and off road, but from the reviews, looks like it does just right, just fine. So I hope that's a easy enough install for you. Again, just make sure all your bolts are torqued. Check them in about 500 kilometers or 500 miles, whichever is easier for you to check. And after you do that, just anyways, I hope you liked this video. Press like if you did, subscribe for more, tell me what you think. Anyways, thanks again for watching.